I never thought I'd face the truth that could destroy everything I built. Daniel whispered, voice trembling, with a mix of fear and raw regret. But what choice do I have when the past comes crashing into my present, demanding justice, forgiveness, and a chance to be a father? The weight of those words hung heavy in the air, echoing through the sterile hospital room where a fragile woman lay sleeping. The woman who once held his heart and now held the key to a family torn apart by time and secrets. Daniel's eyes burned with a desperate hope and a haunting question. Could love really conquer 15 years of silence, betrayal, and pain? Or was he too late to undo what fate had seemingly sealed? Stay with me, because what happens next will shock you. A choice so powerful it will change not only Daniel's life, but the fate of two innocent girls waiting for the father they never knew. This is not just a story about lost love. It's about redemption, sacrifice, and a family's fight to heal against all odds. Daniel Morgan slammed on the brakes, his heart leaping into his throat as two girls suddenly leapt into the street, arms outstretched in front of his black BMW. Tires screeched, horns blared behind him. The car jerked to a halt inches away from the girls' trembling bodies. He flung open his door. "Are you out of your minds? This is a highway. You could have been killed." The older girl, maybe 13, stared at him with wide, swollen eyes, tear-streaked cheeks covered in grime. The younger one clutched her sister's hand tightly, silently sobbing. "Please," the older girl begged, voice shaking. "You have to help us. Our mom collapsed last night and hasn't woken up. The clinic said she needs expensive treatment, and we don't have money. She's dying." Daniel checked his Rolex. 25 minutes late. The meeting with the Japanese investors was happening now, an 8-figure deal on the line. He sighed sharply. "Look, I'm sorry. I really am. But I have to be somewhere. Go find a public hospital, they'll help." The younger girl stepped forward. Her tiny hands were trembling. She said she was going to get better, but last night, she started saying weird things. She didn't know our names. A small crowd had started gathering. Passers-by slowed, phones raised. Someone in the back whispered, "Isn't that Daniel Morgan?" He leaned against the door, suddenly self-conscious. This was becoming a spectacle. "I'm truly sorry," he said, turning to close the door. But then the older girl pulled something from her backpack, a crumpled photo. "Please, this is her. Before she got sick. Maybe if you just see her." Daniel took the photo out of sheer instinct. He was already reaching to return it when his eyes locked on the woman in the picture. The world stopped. The chaos of the street dissolved. The horns faded. His breath caught. The photo trembled in his hand. Claire. It couldn't be, but it was. The curve of her smile, the warmth in her eyes. Claire Bennett, the Claire who had vanished 15 years ago without a word. The girl who held his entire heart at 21 and shattered it when she disappeared the week he left for grad school in New York. He staggered backward, stunned. What's your mother's name, Claire?" "Claire Bennett," the older girl replied. "Do you know her?" Daniel's chest felt like it was caving in. He hadn't heard that name in over a decade, but he'd never stopped thinking about her. "How old are you two?" he asked slowly. "I'm 13, said the girl. "She's 9. He did the math. The timeline lined up too perfectly. Was it possible? Before he could speak again, a raspy voice called from behind him. An old homeless man leaning on a shopping cart had been watching everything unfold. "If you walk away now, son," he said grimly, "that regret's gonna follow you to your grave." Daniel froze. His pulse thundered in his ears. Logic screamed at him to get back in the car salvage. The meeting saved the deal. But something deeper, something buried in a place he hadn't touched in years, roared louder. He looked at the girls again, really looked. The eyes, the jawline, that half-crooked smile. Dear God, they could be his. "Where do you live?" he asked, swallowing hard. "Not far," the older girl said, pointing past a gas station toward a rundown area Daniel had only ever driven past, never into. "Get in," he said. "I'm taking you there." They climbed into the back seat without a word. The ride was silent except for their soft sniffles. As Daniel turned down the narrow roads of West Briar District, unease settled in. Broken sidewalks, trash in the gutters, children playing barefoot in puddles. This was a different world than his penthouse in Midtown. As he slowed to navigate a tight corner, two men approached the car eyeing the BMW like vultures. One of them motioned for Daniel to roll down his window. "Keep driving," the older girl whispered urgently. "Don't stop." Daniel hesitated. Then one of the men stepped toward the car and reached for the door handle. "Hey!" The younger girl, Sophie, screamed out the window with the ferocity of a lion cub. "Leave him alone, he's with us." The man paused, surprised. The other tugged his arm and muttered, "Not worth it." They backed off. Daniel's hands trembled on the wheel. "You're brave," he murmured, glancing in the mirror at the small girl who had just protected him. They finally pulled up to a one-story brick shack with peeling paint and no front door. Inside it was dark and damp. The living room smelled of mold and medicine. "She's in here," Emily whispered. Daniel stepped into the tiny bedroom. There, lying motionless on a thin mattress, was Claire. Her face was pale, cheeks, sunken body fragile. But it was her, Claire, the girl who once ran barefoot through the rain with him, the girl who made him promise he'd come back. She looked destroyed. "I'm sorry she looks like this," Sophie whispered, "but she's still the most beautiful mom in the world." Daniel didn't respond. He couldn't. He stepped closer, knees shaking. The years melted. His throat tightened. He dropped to his knees beside her bed, eyes burning. He reached out, then stopped, afraid his touch would hurt her. "Claire," he whispered. "What happened to you?" From the other room, Emily added quietly. "She always said someone would come back for her." She waited, but no one ever did. Daniel looked down at the woman he once promised forever to, and realized this moment was the fork in his life. Walk away or finally be the man she believed he could be. He pulled out his phone and called his private driver. "Bring the emergency med team, now. Tell them we're headed to St. Catherine." "Is that the fancy hospital?" Sophie asked. Daniel nodded. "Your mom's going to be okay, I promise." As the girls hugged each other, stunned by the sudden shift in their lives, Daniel stared at Claire's fragile face. He had no idea what the truth was. No idea what had happened all those years ago. But he knew one thing for sure: he wasn't walking away again. Because some mistakes, you only get one chance to fix. I'm so sorry to pause the story here right at the moment where everything begins to unravel, but I have to ask, if you were in Daniel's place, would you risk everything to help a woman from your past who might be the mother of your children? Let me know what you do in the comments, and if you're feeling this story so far, don't forget to like the video and send a little love with a heart. The paramedics worked quickly, lifting Claire's fragile body into the private ambulance, while Daniel held the girls close, his mind spinning in every direction. Emily clutched his sleeve. "You promise she's gonna be okay?" Daniel knelt in front of her, brushing a strand of hair from her dirt-streaked cheek. "I don't make promises I can't keep, and this one I'll keep, no matter what it takes." They rode in silence. Claire was hooked up to oxygen and IV in her arm, her skin ghostly pale. Daniel sat across from her, watching every breath, every twitch. He hadn't realized how much he'd missed her until this moment, until the possibility of losing her rose like a scream in his chest. At St. Catherine Medical Center, the city's most elite hospital, a team of specialists swarmed. Words like severe malnutrition, infection, dehydration flew across the sterile high-tech hallway. Daniel authorized everything. Money was no concern. What mattered now was time. A few hours later, Claire was stabilized and resting in a private suite. Emily and Sophie were curled up in the corner armchair, exhausted but alert. Daniel stood by the window, staring out over the city he'd ruled from boardrooms, but for the first time he felt powerless. He hadn't planned on seeing Claire ever again. He certainly hadn't planned on discovering two daughters with her eyes in his jawline. His hands trembled in his pockets. Was he too late, Mr. Morgan? The head physician, Dr. Whitmore, stepped in. "She's stable now, but her condition is fragile. She needs time, nutrition, rest, and a reason to fight." "I'll give her all of that," Daniel said firmly. "Whatever it takes." The next morning, Claire opened her eyes. She blinked at the sterile white ceiling, then slowly turned her head. Daniel stepped closer, cautiously. "You're in a hospital," he said softly. "St. Catherine. You collapsed. Your girls. They found me." Her brow furrowed, eyes still glassy. "Who?" "I'm Daniel. Daniel Morgan." Her pupils focused. Confusion faded. Recognition, sharp and cutting, flashed across her face. "You," she whispered. "No. No, this isn't real." She tried to sit up. Her body betrayed her, and she collapsed back onto the pillow, breath shallow. "I'm not here to hurt you," Daniel said quickly. "I swear. Your daughters, they stopped me in the street." "I didn't know." "Claire, I didn't know." Her expression hardened. "Don't say my name like you care." Daniel flinched. "I searched for you. After I left for New York, you disappeared. I called, wrote, no one knew where you went." "Bull," she snapped, voice cracking, from weakness but filled with fire. "I came to your house. Your mother opened the door. She told me you knew I was pregnant and wanted nothing to do with me." Daniel's stomach dropped. "What I was 4 months along," Daniel. Claire continued, shaking now. "She told me you'd moved on, that your career mattered more than some mistake from back home." "No, Claire. She never told me anything." "You expect me to believe that?" Her eyes blazed. "You married Vanessa Green 3 months after you got back. It was in the newspaper." He stepped back as if she'd slapped him. "I thought you'd left me. You vanished. No phone, no address." "I was heartbroken. I let my parents talk me into something I didn't even want." Claire turned away, tears streaming into the pillow. "I was alone. I gave birth in a city-run hospital. No one held my hand. No one was there." Daniel ran a hand down his face, his voice raw. "Oh my God." "Claire." She didn't answer. She didn't need to. The pain in her silence said it all. Just then, Emily entered the room, slowly carrying an envelope. "Mom, I found this," she said softly, holding it out. Claire took it and froze. It was a letter, creased, torn, half-written, addressed to Daniel. "I wrote this on your birthday," Claire said without looking up. "I asked your mother to send it. She said she would. I should have known." Daniel took it in his hands. It was short, unfinished, but the words were raw, aching. She had still loved him. "I'll talk to her," Daniel whispered. "My mother. She lied to us both. She took away our lives." Sophie stood next to the bed now. "Mom, is he really our dad?" Claire's lip quivered. "Yes, he is." Sophie turned to Daniel. "Why didn't you come sooner?" "Because I didn't know you existed," Daniel whispered. "But now that I do, I'm never leaving again." Claire looked away, emotion choking her. Her defenses were slipping, piece by painful piece. Later that afternoon, while Claire slept, Daniel stepped into the hallway and dialed the one number he had avoided for years. "Daniel," his mother answered. "Darling, how did the meeting go? I heard the Japanese deal closed. Did you ever meet a girl named Claire Bennett?" Silence. "Mom, don't lie. Where did you hear that name?" His voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "Because I'm at the hospital, with her, and with my daughters. Daughters you never told me about." There was a pause. "Daniel, it wasn't the right time. You had your future, she would have ruined it." "She was carrying my child," he shouted, drawing stares from nurses nearby. "You lied to me. You made her disappear." "You're welcome," she hissed. "You think you'd have everything you do now. If I hadn't intervened, you would have ended up in a slum." Daniel hung up. Back in the room, Emily was asleep next to her mom. Sophie was reading. Claire's eyes were open now, and she looked at him differently. "I called her," he said. She admitted it. Claire nodded once. "Too little, too late. I want to make it right. You can't fix 15 years of silence." "No, but I can start today." He moved closer to the bed. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm asking for a chance to know them, to be there, to be better." Claire studied him, the battle raging behind her tired eyes. The pain, the trust shattered, the love still buried deep. "I'm tired, Daniel," she whispered. "But I'm not heartless." He stepped back, a tiny ember of hope flickering. "You'll get your chance. Don't waste it." She turned her face to the side and closed her eyes again. Daniel sat by her side. He had broken something years ago. Now he had one shot to rebuild it piece by piece. And it all started here. "I know we're stopping at a painful and powerful moment, but trust me, the storm is far from over. If you found out your own parents had destroyed the love of your life and kept you from your children, would you be able to forgive them? Let me know your answer in the comments, and if this story touched your heart, please like the video and send it some love. Daniel Morgan never imagined that a single moment could hold the power to change an entire lifetime. Yet sitting beside Claire Bennett in that quiet hospital room, he understood that this was his moment. 15 years lost, yet here they were trying to stitch back together what time had nearly torn apart. Claire's breathing was steady now, the color returning to her cheeks. She looked fragile, but there was a fire in her eyes that no illness could dull. "Daniel," she said softly, "if I'm going to try again, I need to know why." Now after all this time, he reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from her forehead. "Because I never stopped hoping for a chance. I want to be part of your life, and Emily's and Sophie's, not as a stranger, but as a father and partner." Claire's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "It's going to be hard. The past. It's a heavy weight." Daniel nodded, his voice steady. "I'm ready to carry it. I want to make it right every day, however long it takes." Outside the hospital walls, Emily and Sophie cautiously began to trust the man who'd entered their lives so suddenly. Emily's laughter was the first sign of hope. Sophie's shy smile soon followed. Daniel kept his promises, showing up with breakfast, sitting through school events, and learning the little things that made his daughters who they were. But the path to healing was anything but smooth. The Morgans, Margaret and Robert, soon made their presence felt. Their visits were sharp, full of veiled threats and cold reminders of the family Daniel was expected to prioritize. "Daniel," Margaret said one afternoon, her voice brittle, "this isn't the life you were born for. You're throwing away everything." Daniel's jaw clenched, but his gaze never wavered. "This is the life I choose. It's theirs as much as mine." Robert scoffed. "Feelings don't build empires, son. You're making a mistake." Daniel shook his head. "I'm building something more important than Empire's family." Inside Claire, the walls were slowly coming down brick by brick. One evening, as they sat watching Sophie and Emily playing quietly, Claire turned to Daniel. "Promise me one thing," she said. He smiled gently. "Anything. No more running, no more silence. This family deserves honesty always." He nodded, the weight of the promise settling over them both. "I promise." Then came the day Daniel took the biggest leap. He gathered Claire and the girls and led them to the modest home he'd bought in a quiet neighborhood. Not the skyscrapers or luxury condos he was used to, but a place where laughter could grow. Claire's eyes filled with tears when she saw the simple garden where Sophie could run and Emily could read under the sun. "You really did this," she whispered. "For all of you," Daniel replied, pulling her into a gentle hug. Life was still far from perfect. Claire battled her fears daily, fear of being hurt again, fear of the past repeating itself. Emily and Sophie sometimes wavered, unsure if the man who walked through their door would remain. But Daniel's steady presence, his unwavering love, slowly settled their hearts. One afternoon, Daniel sat with Emily and Sophie at the kitchen table. Emily showed him the acceptance letter to a prestigious medical school abroad. Sophie shyly confessed her dream of becoming a family therapist. "I want to help people like us," Sophie said softly. Daniel's heart swelled with pride. "I'll support you both, no matter where life takes you." Claire, watching from the doorway, smiled for the first time in years, hope shining in her eyes. Then, as seasons changed, the Morgans returned with softened faces and tentative apologies. They asked to meet Emily and Sophie. The girls were cautious but polite. Margaret spoke with surprising warmth. "I'm sorry for the past. I see now what I was blind to." Robert nodded. "We were wrong to keep you apart. We want to be part of your lives." Daniel looked at Claire, then at his daughters. Maybe forgiveness was possible, not just for the past, but for a future none of them had dared imagine. One evening, under the golden glow of the porch light, Daniel took Claire's hands in his. "Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as she nodded. "Yes. Let's build this family for real this time." Their wedding was simple, but filled with the kind of love that only pain and forgiveness can bring. Emily and Sophie walked down the aisle, radiant proof that hope could heal even the deepest wounds. Years later, Daniel woke to the smell of breakfast and the sound of laughter. Emily was packing for her trip abroad. Sophie was planning college applications. Claire was busy baking in the kitchen, her small business thriving. They were a family not perfect, but theirs, whole. And Daniel knew with all his heart that every lost year had led to this moment of healing and joy. What do you think was the most powerful moment in Daniel and Claire's journey? If you were in their shoes, would you take a chance on love again after so much heartbreak? Let me know what you think. If this story touched your heart, please comment number 3 below. If you're still unsure, comment number 2. And if you feel something is missing, comment number 1. Don't forget to tell me which country you're watching from. Please like, share, and send your love. It means the world.